What's going on, guys? Hey, Dan, how's it going, man? Man, my nose itches. Actually, everything itches. I got dang poison ivy. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's let some folks jump on here. Everybody jump on, say hi. I'm going to get everything situated. I just sat down, so things are running a little bit behind. Story of my life. I need a haircut. Speaking of being behind. Oh, man. Let's see. Crazy things going on. I'm having a good time. It's cold as heck. So, yeah, it's supposed to get down pretty cold. I know it's a lot colder in other places in the country, but it's cold for around here. It got down to mid-20s last night out here on the farm. And thanks, Scott. Yeah, I was down in Louisiana, down on the marsh, and internet wasn't very good down there. There was no way I was going to get a live done without screwing things up. So, yeah, I kind of missed it last week. I wanted to do it, but we'll try to figure out something else for the next time I'm down there. We'll figure it out. I know I may hook up to a different Wi-Fi and see if that'll work. So, Soccer Pro, thanks, man. Scott Hash says, come to Minnesota. Maybe in the summer. I ain't coming during the wintertime. I've had that ice fishing adventure, and you guys can have that. I'm going to stay down here where I can put my boat in the water. Next video, I've got to film one tomorrow. I have one ready, but it's my editor didn't get all the footage for some reason, so I'm sending him. Matter of fact, as soon as I get off the phone, I'm finished or off the live. I'm going to finish sending him the footage that for some reason didn't get sent to him, and that one's going to be up next week. Got to shoot a video for Bonafide tomorrow. It's kind of it's an instructional, but it's for people who already own Bonafides. But I got to put it out there just to get the information out for Bonafide. They've got a new fix for for their original SS models. A lot of people already know about it. It's a seat fix, but I'm gonna actually do a full instructional video about how to put on their new replacement stuff and how to get their replacement parts. So it's all under warranty. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Flip full, man. Good, man. I'm glad I got you into fishing. That's awesome. That's awesome. What's up, Bryce? Let's see. Oh man, I was just trying to see who all's on. Hey, full flip. Let me do a couple of things. We're gonna do the normal first 5 or 10 minutes where I just do the hey Joni, just do the basically the announcements, take care of all the business and everything else, and get everything rolling. First of all, the winner of the $25 gift card to Flukemastr.com is Alan Bailey from Rockwell, Texas. That's right next to Ray Hubbard, if I remember correctly, right just outside of Dallas. So your local lake is Ray Hubbard Reservoir, which is a really good lake. Not far from Lake Fork, which is awesome. It's one of my favorite lakes in the country. But yeah, congratulations, man. If you guys want to enter for a $25 gift card from Flukemastr.com or $25 off your order from Flukemastr.com, just go to Flukemastr.com and just create a profile. That's all you got to do. Name, email address, a couple other information, and we choose from that list every week, so which is pretty cool. Angler, which is this little button up here. A couple of things for you guys to know. We got a trip this Sunday, Monday, Tuesday on Chickamauga. I'm going to be there Monday and Tuesday with the Angler guys, where we're going to go over the new updates for the app, which are going to be a lot more social stuff. So a lot more. With the new updates, they're going to give me the ability to be able to teach using their app, which is really cool. Some of the cool things you guys can follow me along on my fishing trips, and I teach along with those. It's just going to be a lot of cool stuff. So we're going to go over those. The Angler app is free. This button, I think, is like $20 or $30. The battery lasts for 2 years. But you don't have to have the button to be able to use the app and be able to use all the functions on the app. The button is just a convenience where if you catch a fish, you hit the little button. It's called a bullseye is what it's called. But you hit the bullseye and it goes directly to your phone and it logs everything you need to know about that fish. You can take a picture with your phone real quick and easy and put the fish back in the water, which is really cool. So It's also the same thing. I don't know if you guys saw it on Lake Fork about a year or two ago, where he was talking about the little thing that goes on the fishing rod that keeps track of your cast. You can use that too, but I'm mainly using the bullseye. Used it all week in Louisiana. Caught a bunch of really good redfish. Caught a really big 40-inch redfish, which mainly was a photo shoot for NRS. So I don't have any of those photos. They're with the photographer. Was able to take a picture of his screen on his phone or on his camera. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Other than that, that's it. That's all I got. Oh, check out this shirt from Fishing Shirt of the Month. I'm kind of happy with that one. This is a good one. $10 a month, Fishing Shirt of the Month. That's my company. It's still going on. I know we were having issues beginning of this year, but those have all been fixed. Main issues were the guy I partnered with kind of disappeared. And so I started working with somebody else. But anyway, so that's still good. FishingShirtOfTheMonth.com is what that one is. And that's all for the announcements. So we get to have a nice, long, extended Q&A deal. So let's see. Start with the first one, the one that just popped up. Fewer, Prouder, 1775. What is the best way to practice flipping? Get you a target and put it in the yard. If it's wintertime and it's cold outside or whatever else, I hope you got a ceilings that are a little bit high. Get a cup, get a plastic. I use a 4-inch PVC pipe that's been cut about that long, so it's about that big around. And I just practice with it. During the summertime, if the fishing really sucks, that's when I practice skipping docks and flipping and pitching and hitting targets and stuff like that. I don't even try to catch fish. I just go try to practice casting. The best way to do it is in your yard. So, let's see. When am I coming back to Neely Henry? Missed you at Bucks Island a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to continue to work with Bucks Island. They've become really good friends of mine, and I'm sure you're going to see me there several times. They're really, I mean, that's a great marina. They keep my boat working. They take care of my maintenance. They take that pain away from me. So all I need to do is focus on this kind of stuff. If I could get that with all of my sponsors, it'd be great. But like I said, they're just friends, and I enjoy going over there and doing stuff with them and for them. So it won't be too long. I guarantee you that. Let's see. Joni says, hey, going to come hang out with you Monday. You get a seat open in the boat. That'd be great, man. I'm actually, Joe, Monday on Chick, I'm going to be filming and fishing with the Angler app guys, but we might try to put together a meet and greet somewhere. If we're not too far from you, I might hit you up and try to do it at your restaurant. We'll see. I haven't talked about it yet, so don't make any preparations. I know you're a big dogs fan. You need to get Jake Fromm on the channel with you. He's an outdoors guy. Yeah, he is, and I have a connection, so that might happen. It ain't gonna happen during the season though, but that might happen. I do have a really good connection. So one of his best friends is a real good friend of mine. Actually, a kid that I taught a lot about fishing back when he was 13 years old, back when I guided. So, we're working on some stuff, Jeffrey. Oh, that's Bucks Island. Yeah, that's Mike. Yeah, we're definitely. Michael says we're working on some stuff with me on Bucks Island. So he works with Scott, my manager. Here's somebody from Australia, cod fishing 108. What's going on, man? You guys are getting some good weather down there finally. Water temps 38, and I don't have a fish finder, and I'm in a kayak. What would you target? Mainly bluegill and shad lakes. I would target things that warm up faster. Anything else like rocks on steep banks, rock bluff walls, logs if you have them in the water. Those, if it's a sunny day, those logs will warm up faster, and the bass will get in tight to them. But concentrate on those what I call 45-degree banks. It's where the coming off of the bank into the water is about 45 degrees. And for some reason, when it gets cold and the bass start to migrate out to their winter places, those are the kind of places they hold for the wintertime, are those 45-degree banks, especially if they're rocky. And I think the reason is because the silt has a hard time settling on those 45-degree banks, so it kind of falls down into the bottom of the lake, and that's all hard bottom, and it's rocky, and a lot of times it's dark, and the sun will warm it up. So that's my theory on it anyway. Let's see, John Bolton just got home from Kentucky Lake. Let's go, dogs, and what bait is best for winter pond fishing? Thanks, man. Bassin' with Brady. Winter pond fishing. What are my favorite baits for winter pond fishing? I really like a jig if it's not, if it's got a hard. Ponds don't have a hard bottom. Excuse me, I don't know why I'm yawning. I'm not tired. Let me think. I like to slow roll a spinnerbait, really. I'm trying to go back to the pond days when I was catching them really good in the wintertime in the ponds. Was slow rolling a spinnerbait, slowly working things. A big worm, not even a big worm, like a medium-sized worm up on the, worked real slow on the bottom would work too. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And pitching into cover. Do I ever talk to Chad Hoover anymore? Yes, if he answers his phone. He asked me to call him 2 days ago. I called him and he didn't answer his phone. So yeah, I got to talk to him. We talk about once or twice a week. Actually, I called him the other day as I was going down to Louisiana. I was just north of oh my gosh, my mind just went blank. I was just north of New Orleans going down the interstate, and I saw him coming the other direction going home, and I called him then. So that's about as close as me and Chad have gotten to each other over the last few months. Hey Gene, what's the best advice for beginner bass fishermen on a budget? Stay on your budget is the best advice. I've got some really good beginner videos that talk about the basics in tackle, basics in rods and reels and stuff like that. You got to go watch them if you haven't. I've got a whole playlist of beginner videos that I've been working on over the years, and it's full of great information for you, because I do understand that when you first start off, you don't want to spend the kind of money that I've been spending over the years on fishing. Hey Fluke, why don't you let your beard grow wild? It is about as wild as it gets. Dude, I was in the Army for 6 years. I rarely pay for my own haircut. I usually cut my own hair. And when it starts to get real straggly, I start to lose my mind. So same with my hair. This is about as long as you'll ever see it. Matter of fact, I'm probably going to cut it tomorrow. So I've just been traveling too much and on the road so much that I haven't been able to cut it. So, John Bolton says, Chad was texting me tonight on my way home. Call him again. Oh, I'll call him again. He just doesn't answer his phone. I have to text him and say, hey, answer your phone. That kind of stuff. It drives me nuts. Are you ready to see the dogs whip Bama? I sure hope so, man. What I always wish for every year is that the dogs will play Alabama. And it's because we're in the SEC championship. And, yeah, I hope they win. It'd be awesome. Best value baitcaster rod, medium heavy. That's the reason I'm with 13 Fishing, is because I feel like their rods are the best value rods. They're not the best rods on the market, but they're the ones that when you spend $80 on a fake chrome, you're getting a rod that feels and performs like a $120 rod. So any of the 13 Fishing lineup is going to feel and perform better than its price point. And that's why I love them so much. There are other companies out there that when I hold their rods and reels in my hands, I'm like, I can't believe they're charging this much for this rod, and it may be better than the 13 rod, but it's not as good, it's not worth the price that they put on the sticker. Just my opinion. And that's from years and years of holding rods and fishing with them and testing them and playing around with them. So, what are your thoughts on stupid rigging a tube? My weight always punches through the plastic. I don't know. I have to look up stupid rigging. This first time I've heard it called that. Is the SS127 ready to use, or do you need to get accessories before you can use it? Literally all you need is a life jacket and a paddle right out of the box, and the SS127 is ready to go. What you want to add is tackle storage, like a box or something like that, but you can throw your tackle box in the back. tackle storage. I don't use rod holders except on my tackle storage. I have 3 on my tackle storage box. And then you just kind of go from there. It's not something, you don't need a fish finder. It's nice to have. You don't need a dozen rods, which aren't nice to have because they take up too much room. I have a maximum of 6 rods on the boat at any when I go kayak fishing. This week in Louisiana, when I was redfish fishing, I had 3, and I rarely used the third one. I usually only had 2 rods out. So, let's see. My rod says Action Ultralight, but I thought ultralight was a power. What does this mean? Um, the funny thing is about that is it's so, even the industry interchanges that so much, and so um, you're it's like ultralight. Ultralight's a bluegill rod is what it is anyway. But a medium power, fast action. I don't know why. It would be I guess it would be called an ultralight or a medium light power, ultralight power. But and then you got fast action, slow action, or moderate action, medium fast action, that kind of stuff. So yeah, dude, it's so hard to keep that in line because I'm guilty of it too. We interchange those things a lot. Um, let's see, Brian Robinson, what's going on with the boat, Fluke? I wish I knew. I really don't know what's going on over at Lumacraft. It's not a bad thing, and I haven't really been pushing it because I don't really, I just. I'm just gonna wait that out. I still have the black boat. I'm still fishing out of it. I'll be on it all weekend. So yeah, we'll see. You guys will know when I do. Any chances on crappy videos soon? One of my favorite channels. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Trey. Um, you know what? I might do that this winter. I know a lot of that Lake Weiss is one of the top crappie lakes in the country, or at least it used to be. Um, and so I might get out there and try that out and just see what I can find. And especially if I'm doing some fish finder videos, because man, crappie fishing is so much fun and makes the tube weedless by exposing the hook. Oh, okay. I gotcha. I've never done it, Adrian. I really don't know. Yeah, I've never done that one, so I wouldn't be able to help you. Um, Water temperature dropped substantially on Kentucky Lake. We found the fish in 15 to 20 feet of water today. Wow. You know what I've noticed, especially here in the South, is that we had a short fall transition for the bass. And I wish I was on a lake that had long creek channels because really, Chickamauga does not have long creek channels like Clark's Hill did, and I could follow the fish all the way back. But from what I've observed in every lake that I've fished in the last few weeks, is the bass went fall and winter really quick, and they've already pulled out. A lot of them have pulled out onto the main lake flats and on those main lake drops and points, and they're no longer back in the creeks. I'd still look back there to see if they're there, if the bait fish are there, but literally it looks like because we had such cold temperatures and the water temperatures dropped so dramatically that the bass basically turned around and went back out to the main lake for wintertime. And they're going to feed all winter long, so it's not going to kill them. But yeah, that's what I've observed, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people have too. Let's see, Kathy, what's going on? She says she got her 117 tonight. Can't wait to slime it up. That's awesome. Let's see. I didn't understand that. Gene, thoughts on the Corrado DC? I have only held it in my hand, so I can't give you 100% of the thoughts. I decided earlier this year after all the issues I had with some of my reviews that I was going to stop doing review videos because it was really I couldn't keep my mouth shut when people said that my opinion was wrong. So it was one of those things where I just had to pull out. So I've kind of stopped testing other rods and reels because the review channel's not going to come back, at least not anytime soon. I hate that, but yeah. So I have not. I haven't tried one. I probably won't in the near future. Let's see. Is topwater baits good to use at this time of the year? Not particularly, especially when the water gets super cold. Probably good in like Florida right now. When the water temperature gets down below, somewhere around below 60, topwater pretty much stops. The bass won't come and break the surface for some reason. They'll come close. You can throw a shallow water crankbait, but I don't see them hitting topwater. So, and what is the best lure that you would say? Thank you, love the show. I never pick a best. It's usually what the bass want. I usually take the weather conditions, the the time of the year and that kind of stuff. The stuff that I've learned over the years, a lot of the stuff I put on videos, and I do that, and that's basically, I mean, I just put them together and fish certain baits and let the bass tell me what action and what speed and all that other stuff. Let's see. You said you like throwing jigs for winter bass. Are these finesse jigs or regular size? Actually, oversized jigs. I love to fish basically it's a heavy living rubber jig that Greenfish Tackle makes. I can't remember what they call it. But anyway, you'll find it on Tackle Warehouse. For some reason, you get one without the silicone skirt, where it's just the heavy living rubber, and you throw a small, like a Zoom Super Chunk Junior on there or something like that, and the bass just love it. And the biggest thing is don't use a trailer that kicks a lot. You want to use a trailer that kind of floats dead, and you'll get more bites. So, man, you guys are busting out questions. These are good ones too. I love them. Let's see, John. I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name. It starts with a D. Thank you for everything you do, Gene. You've got me all jacked up for fishing with my kids now that youth football is over. Thank the Lord youth football is over. Sorry, honey. But yeah, my wife ran my son all over the place for youth football this year. He loved it, though. He had a lot of fun. How good is the 13 Fishing Inception? It's one of those reels that you can beat the snot out of and it's still going to work. It's not pretty. I don't like that flat gray color. But you can literally, it's one of those reels that in 5 years all the paint you've knocked all the paint off because you've abused it, and it's still going to work. I think I have 5 of them now, or 6 of them. I can't remember how many I've got now, but I love them. They're really good. They're worth $120 easy. I'm sorry. Tips on baitcaster settings when long casting lighter weight lures. I still set them up the same way. I've got an old video that I made probably 5 years ago now that it's all about casting light lures with a baitcaster. But you set it to where you loosen the cast control knob and it just barely starts to fall. But this trick is to let more line out from the rod tip, so that line can help load that rod up, and it's more of a smooth sweeping action. I do better sidearm than I do overhand. So the video covers a whole lot more details, but that's basically what it is. So what's the best? I was looking at Lowrance Hook 7 or Hook 2 7-inch unit. I actually love the idea that Lowrance came up with the Hook 2s, that everything is pretty easy to use, and I think the 7 would be perfect. I wonder if it has mapping, though. I haven't looked to see whether it has mapping, but I love the idea of just making them really simple. But I always recommend you get one that is color, one that has a GPS and mapping on it, and then get and has down scan. It doesn't have to have side scan, but I think down scan really helps you identify what's on your fish finder, and then get the largest screen that you can afford. The bigger the screen, the more detail you see is the biggest thing, especially on the down scan. And if you're going to get side scan, you've got to get the monster screens, because you lose a ton of detail the smaller that screen gets. Whew! Goodness. So, let me think. I'm going to tell you guys what's going on. When I was down in Louisiana, a little story. I guess we went bass fishing one day on a little lake up north of where we were, so we could get some bass footage. And I guess I rubbed up against some poison ivy or poison oak, and I am majorly allergic to it. So since then, it has spread from my knees. I've got from my knees on both legs all the way up the back of my legs. My whole chest, stomach, chest is all poison ivy. My arm from here down, my arm from here down, ear, my eye. So a performance enhancing drug shot today. I went and got some some roids shot in me today to try to get it to stop because it spreads pretty fast on me and I get really bad. And I've had it so many times I don't scratch it, but man, it itches. So that's usually why I stop and kind of cringe every once in a while. Looking for a reel to fish my new 8-inch bull shad. Woo! I need help deciding and value opinion. The 300 size reels are a big investment. Thanks for the help. I have the 300 size reels that I have used, and I don't like the round reels. I know Mike Buca is a good friend of mine. He made that swim bait you just bought. He loves those stinking round reels, and I can't fish with them. So 13 just came out with or last 2 years ago came out with the Concept A3, and now they've got the Concept Z3, which are the two 300 series reels. They really cast those good. I actually throw an 11-inch bull shad on those, and they work just great. The biggest thing is don't use braid. Use 20-pound fluorocarbon or 25-pound fluorocarbon. That way, if you ever get a backlash, that fluorocarbon stretches enough to where it'll be a shock absorber with that backlash. If you get backlash with a braided line, I don't care how heavy that braid is, it's going to break. The shock from that backlash is going to break that braid. I sent $125 bull shads flying on Gunnersville many years ago. It was a custom painted Dwayne Beatty swim bait, and so yeah, that broke my heart. And I did it because I was using braid. What would be good on docks in cold water? Thanks. I love to skip jigs in the wintertime. I don't know what it is about a jig that falls slow. A big skirt, you throw it in, you skip it up, and you get it close to the dock post, and they just kind of slowly float down. Another one's a Cinco, of course, but yeah, I look for those docks that are on the steeper banks, and I just throw a jig. Is basically what I do, and usually black and blue. Black and blue for some reason works really good in the wintertime on most lakes, unless the water's super clear. Like you got I don't know, a spring fed lake or grass lake or whatever. I'm throwing a brown one, but usually a black and blue one. They have one-handed fishing reels. Yeah, last I checked it. For those with arm injuries. Talking about one you can reel with one. I don't know. I know when my best friend blew his shoulder out in a bulldozer accident, he we set the boat up to troll, and he trolled with a spinning reel. And what he could do is he could hold the spinning reel in one hand, and then hold the handle, and it literally would hold the handle, and he'd do this with the reel to reel it in, or do this with the rod to reel it in, or you could do it the other way. So just I don't know. That's something you have to deal with your own. Let's see, Gene, do you throw jerk baits? If so, which one? Yes, I do throw jerk baits. Which one is a hard question to answer because I probably have 7 or 8 different brands of jerk baits that I throw because the bass one day they'll want this and the next day they'll want this one or this. I have favorite ones that I throw in the springtime. I have some old Lucky Crafts that are no longer made. The color's been discontinued, and I throw those in the springtime. In the fall, it just all depends. I have everything from Smithwicks to Lucky Crafts to Spros. To Strike Kings. I mean, and I've got 5 boxes of jerk baits, and you think I threw them all the time? I throw them from the time the water temperature hits 50 degrees until the water temperature gets back up to 50, and it's only in the wintertime, and I probably could do a lot better in the summertime. I just have a lot of other baits I like to throw. So Lojo fishing. I don't think I've ever talked to Lojo once or twice, but no, I have not. What do you think of the Abu Garcia Max series, especially Silver Max? Because it might be my first baitcaster. Now, I haven't. Let me go and qualify this. I haven't used a Silver Max, a Black Max, or a Pro Max in 4 years. When I used them, I really enjoyed the Pro Max. It was a really good reel, and the Black Max was actually the one I had put braid on with that bullshad swim bait that I lost at Gunnersville. That may have been my biggest problem. Is I was trying to throw a big heavy bait. It was just an 8 inch, but I throwing a big heavy bait on a inexpensive bait caster, and it backlashed, and that braid snapped, and that thing went flying. But yeah, they're good reels. To be honest with you, and it's not because I'm sponsored by them, but I have tried the 13 Fishing Origin reels, and they're really good. They're not. They feel like their price point. They're not like outstanding reels, but they're perfect for the beginner. Because if you don't like bait casters, you're not out a whole lot of money. And I wouldn't spend any more than $80 on a bait caster anyway if it's your first one. But I wouldn't spend less than $60. So keep it in that $60 to $80 range, and you're good. So let's see. How do you typically fish rocky areas? Jack Bauer. Man, there's so many different ways. My favorite ways to fish them, it all depends on the depth, is if rock, I like to throw jigs, and I love to throw crankbaits because crankbaits can beat the crap. You can beat the crap out of those rocks with those crankbaits and trigger reaction strikes. Spinner baits. I guess it just depends. If the bass aren't really in a mood to chase, I'm going to go to a jig or a drop shot or a shaky hit or something like that. If they're in the mood to chase, I'm going to throw crankbaits. How should I get into glide bait reels? I think glide bait, the reel only just depends on the weight of the bait, really. If you're throwing those big heavy glide baits, which that's one thing I've started collecting this year was glide baits. But if you're throwing heavy glide baits, then you're going to use this 300 or 3000 series. It's a 300, yeah, 300 size bait caster. If you're going to use the ones that are kind of lighter, the 6 inch or below, you can use your regular jig rod, be just fine. But the reel just depends on on the size of the bait you're throwing. So. What's your rule of thumb when you should get off the water and on a kayak? Oh, get off the water on a kayak when the weather kicks up. Dude, I always err on the side of caution. If the weather kicks up and I'm stuck somewhere, I'm going to the bank. Even if I'm in Louisiana, I'm going to go find somewhere. The biggest thing is if it's lightning, you got to get lower than something else. If it's wind, you've got to prepare for that. You really got to look at the weather. Kayaks, and you guys are going to see this in a couple of videos I'm going to make here in the near future about kayak safety. But them suckers can get away from you in a hurry. You fall out of them, and they can go somewhere you can't get back up to them. First thing is always wear your life jacket. I don't care what the temperature is. I don't care anything. If that boat is on the water and your butt's in that boat, it needs to be in a life jacket. I've almost lost too many friends this year. I've lost one just recently, and I've almost lost 3 other ones this year. And if they hadn't had their life jackets on, one of them would not, their body would not have been found, and the other 3 would not have lived. So, yeah, you got to have your life jacket on. So we're not going to talk about Rebecca though. I love her too much. I'm gonna miss her something fierce. Are you still throwing a chatterbait this time of the year? Yes. If there's grass in the lake, I'm gonna throw a chatterbait, even if it's dead grass. And I'll stop throwing it here soon because the water temperature is getting into the low 50s. So, can you use topwater baits during the winter? You probably could. Your likelihood of catching a fish probably isn't very good. But if the bass are shallow and active and you found some really warm water, you might be able to get away with it, especially on those power plant lakes. So I'm gonna change this up. I got to get a new chair. My wife picked this chair out for me, and it is uncomfortable. I'm gonna have to sell it and buy another one, I think. Have I fished running rivers for bass? Only for smallmouth. I have a hard time finding largemouth in running rivers. I usually have to find the dead slack water to find largemouth bass. But for spots, they'll be closer to the current, and the smallmouth will be in the current. So, ooh, goodness, why am I yawning so much? Nicholas Treadway says, I didn't fish as a kid, decided to take up the hobby about a year ago. Learned everything I know from your videos. That's awesome, brother. Thanks for all the great content and time you spend helping us out. I love it, man. That's why I do it. There's so many people out there that want to learn how to fish that have nobody to teach them. So if you guys ever run into anybody like that, just tell them about my videos, because that's why they're there. Big Chew, that's hilarious. Big Chew says, I still trying to catch a woman. What kind of night crawler you recommend? I got left with the ugly stick. Oh man, that's up to you, bro. You might want to change from a night crawler to a golden ring or something. Uh, Sean Titsworth, let's see. Gene, I just bought a 6-foot 9-inch medium fast action jerk bait. 6-foot medium fast action for jerk baits. Can I use this rod for lip? Oh yes, definitely. That's my favorite lipless rod right there. So. What's your thoughts on wearing a tether in a kayak when in a kayak? My only worry about having me personally tethered to a kayak is that it'll wrap around my neck if I ever fall out in current or anything like that when it gets really crazy. I don't mind having a tether on my paddle, but my problem is I've never fallen out. The biggest thing is even though I've never fallen out, I have practiced climbing back into my kayak. When you first buy a kayak, and even if you've had it for a while, continually practice getting your fat butt, or my fat butt, up into a kayak, because that's when you flip the sucker. It's not when you fall out. It's usually when you try to climb back into it, and that's when problems happen. So that's a key thing, guys. Really, and I literally I put off buying a kayak until the springtime, because I knew I was going to want to take it out in the wintertime, and I was a little worried when I first bought my first kayak. So, Winter Power Plant Lake, Coffeen, Illinois, confuses me. Man, I know a lot about Coffeen. I love the grass up on the north end. The best thing is the fish are going to be congregated around the warm water. You just got to find that temperature that they like, and it may be far away from the discharge, and it may be really close to the discharge. And usually on those kind of lakes, there's so many people fishing the discharge that it's a take a number thing. So you just kind of have to go in a circle. But that's the biggest thing, is you'll find that the bass will be congregated in a specific water temperature, and that's when your fish finder really comes in handy. So, and I've found in my experience with power plant lakes, it's usually in the mid to low 70s. So 70 to 75 is usually where I start to really look hard for the fish. Have I seen the Blue Sky Boatworks Angler 360? Yes, I have. I actually, Jameson, the photographer, you guys might know Jameson Redding. Him and Brooks had one. That's what they shot their videos and their pictures out of this last week during the photo shoot in Louisiana. Looks like a really good boat. It really, it's big. It's really big, but it's a small pontoon boat, and it really does get around really well. So, I think Jackson hit a home run with those. So, are the Humminbird units good for under $500? Yes, they are. Let's see. What rod length and action you recommend for crankbaits, jerkbaits, and swim baits? Swim baits depends on the size of the swim bait. If you're just using the little, the jig-headed with a paddle tail swim baits, a jerk bait, and a crankbait, you want a medium, moderate action for crankbaits and jerk baits, a medium fast action for jerk baits or small swim baits and lipless crankbaits, and that kind of stuff. If you're talking about big swim baits, you've got to get a dedicated swim bait rod with a dedicated swim bait reel, because those things will destroy your equipment. So that's the biggest thing. So, what is a good, cheaper alternative to the Whopper Plopper? I don't know. I've got an entire tackle box full of Whopper Ploppers. I don't know. I know that what's the name of that company? Savage Gear's got one. Or they introduced, they had one at ICAST, I think. But I don't know what the price is. I don't know. I have to look. I've got no clue. So, what do you think about the carp invasion? You know what? I don't know. I think it's going to be a really big adjustment for the anglers on Kentucky Lake for the first few years, and I think they're eventually going to figure out what the bass are doing. That's what I'm hoping. I hope it doesn't destroy the rivers. I really don't think it will. I think the bass will adjust. I think the carp will, keep moving north and getting, I think it's a bad thing that's in the Tennessee River because it's going to mess up Wilson and Wheeler and Kentucky Lake, and Wilson's my favorite lake, which is the next one in the line, and it'll mess up Gunnersville and work its way up until they get, until somebody figures something out. So, what's my favorite swim bait? I love a bull shad, and I'm very, very, very partial to it. I had a lot to do with helping Mike while he was learning how to make swim baits. Mike Duke has been a friend of mine since long before he started making swim baits, so I'm very partial to it. But it is my favorite swim bait. It's one I throw the most. It's the one I have the most confidence in. So, are black and blue flipping jigs still effective in 40 to 50 degree, 15-acre ponds deep with heavy cover on the side? Yes, I literally black and blue jigs I throw most of the winter. Like I said earlier, unless it's super clear water, then I'm gonna throw a brown jig. Do all dry flies float? Because I just tied an elk hair caddis and it sank. Clay, you got to put dry fly ointment on it that causes it to float. One of the things I used to do with an elk hair caddis is early in the spring, you would just put a little bit of ointment on a couple of the hackles and at the top, and what it would do is it would float just under the surface, and that's usually was the when we got the big bites was when it was just under the surface but not on top, and it would just float perfectly about right under the surface, and the trout would come up and suck it in. So. Uh, David Foyt says, just heard it was very nice weather at Pack. I don't want to hear that crap, brother. Oh, man, David was with us down there in Louisiana. It was bad weather. We had maybe 3 days of good shooting. And the rest of it was just cold, wet, miserable, raining, just nasty, nasty weather. I got home here and it was still cold and wet and miserable. I still haven't unpacked my truck, and it's 3 days ago. So yeah, that's been crazy. Sorry about that, David. Is the 13 fishing concept A worth $175, or should I go with the Inception? The A is my favorite 13 reel outside of the Z. The Z is my new favorite one, but it's because it's great. But my A is the one I use the most. It's worth the money, but if you want to save money, the Inception's a really good reel too. If I had to compare the two, which is like comparing, peanuts to apples, it's the Inception feels a little clunkier just because it was built to get beat up, and was built for that standard performance that you expect out of a reel. The A was built for a higher level of performance, and it's just a good reel. I mean, I love the A. The Inception's great too, but the A is my favorite one. So, Fluke, I'm in Lafayette. Where's good fishing? What's the name of that lake we fished? David would know it. That lake that's just east of Lafayette is where we fished, and the bass were literally. I just zoomed around looking for bait on the outside edge of that grass, and the bass were there. They weren't very big, but I think I caught 5 or 6. So we needed them for pictures. Let's see. David Neal says I mostly use medium and medium heavy rods and rarely throw 3/4 ounce or heavier lures. Is this an investment in a heavy rod worth it? Only if you're fishing heavy cover, and really, if you rarely throw anything over a 1/2 ounce, then you really all you need is a medium heavy. But if you're going to get up into those 3/4 to 1 ounce stuff, you're going to start punching, you're going to start flipping into heavy cover and that kind of stuff. A heavy rod really helps turn a fish's head and get him out of cover before he wraps you up around docks and that kind of stuff. So that's going to be up to how you want to fish, but that's kind of what I would do is if I'm going to get into heavy stuff and heavy cover, go with get yourself a heavy rod eventually. So will I be at the Bassmaster Classic Expo this spring? I am planning on it. Since Alex Rudd lives right there in the area, and I'm gonna hit him up for a night for an extra bedroom, I might have to come up there. Um, what time of year did you catch your personal best? It was in the springtime. She was actually spawning on a stump or on a log. I didn't sight fish her, but she was on that log spawning, and it was early in the morning. Flipped that vial crawl down in there and jigged it a couple of times, and she swam off with it. So Clay Sawyer says he just shot his first buck yesterday. It was a 6 point at 75 yards. That's awesome, man. Really awesome. Congratulations. Any tips when the fishing is dead? It's almost ice over where I live, and the fishing is getting dead. I've never fished those conditions, but from the guys that I've seen fishing those conditions, when the ice is just starting to form, the bass, for some reason, if there's grass in your lake, will be in the grass. And just fish anywhere around that grass. I don't know what to fish with, but that's what I would at least find them in the grass. Is 54-degree water temperature horrible bank fishing for bass? No, but when it as it drops down into like 51, 50 and on lower than that, it gets pretty tough. And that's when, for me, if I was a bank fishing all the time, that's when I would literally spend the rest of the time just getting tackle ready for the next year, cleaning rods, cleaning reels, getting everything to where so they'll last you for the next season and you don't have to replace anything. And then just prepping stuff. And then go out every once in a while. If it's still soft water, if you don't have ice on the water, go out and enjoy it. You know, see what you can do. See if you can try to catch something. Because they do move shallow sometimes in the wintertime. Ooh. Let's see. Hello from the Four Corners. Been there, was there when I was a kid. Best 20, 30 feet deep lure for smallmouth. Water temps 45 degrees. Drop shot. And what is the name of that? I made a video about it. What's it called? I got ragged for that video too because I shot it in Florida in shallow water, but I was talking about deep water. The Demiki rig. So drop shot and a Demiki rig are really good for that deep water stuff in the wintertime, especially for smallies. Um, let's see. What's a good frogging lake in Tennessee or surrounding states? Um, Tennessee would be Chattanooga. It would be Chattanooga. It would be Chickamauga is a good frogging lake. Anything that has matted vegetation that bites all but over right now because it's gotten so cold so fast. Plus they're pushing water really really hard. Um, Trying to think of any other lakes around. Like I said, any one of those lakes in Middle Tennessee that has a lot of grass would be really good. But I would guarantee that I could almost guarantee those bass are out of that grass and they're on flats and points. So it's a $500 rod and spinning reel combo, a good enough quality fishing setup. That sounds like a little bit more than what I would spend. It's going to be an excellent quality deal. That's a lot of money to spend on a rod and a reel. But if you want the best rod in in the industry, in my opinion, go look at Dobbins rods and his Champion Extremes, which are, I can't remember how much they were, $400 or something like that. Best rods on the market. So sorry, 13. That's how I feel. What's your biggest Ned rig bass, dude? I think I've caught one 7 pounds or 6.5 pounds on a Ned rig. I think that was the biggest one I caught this spring. I've caught so many dang fish on a Ned rig, I can't even be able to tell you. Oh, my favorite is to catch smallmouth on them though, because man, they fight like crazy. How much catfishing, if any, do you do? I catch catfish on accident. That's about how much catfishing I do. I've probably caught 10 or 12 this year on accident. I caught one just recently in Louisiana, right outside Lafayette. So, what did I catch it on? A crankbait. I got on a square bill, which was funny. Favorite best month to bass fish. My favorite one around here in Georgia is end of February, early March. Water temperature is really cold, but it's starting to warm up. I just have the best luck when they're pre-spawn, when they move up into pre-spawn patterns. It just depends on where you're at, but when that water temperature starts to go up, I get out on the water. I don't care if it was 40 degrees and moving up to 50 or whatever else, I'm out on the water fishing. So, yeah, usually end of February, early March. Um, let's see. When alone, how do you get a darn hook out of your hand? I've never, knock on wood, never gotten a hook in my hand. I don't know. I just jerk it out. If I guess it just all depends on how it's hooked, or either that or pack it up and go into the urgent care and have them do it. Does Chickamauga have good bank access? Only in a few spots that I could tell when I was out fishing. Some of the parks do, but yeah, you really have to look hard. I know there's a lot of people around Chester Frost is usually the best fishing, and that's where a lot of people bank fish. Um, let's see. What do you throw at this time? Sean Piscatelli. Good to see you again, brother. Let me think. What do I throw this time of the year? Really, I'm fiending for a jig bite, and I haven't fished for bass, like I said, since I was down in Louisiana. Fished one day, and then the rest of it was red fishing. Um, I'm probably going to be throwing a chatterbait this next week on Chickamauga, at least to start with. That'll be my search bait, or a spinnerbait, slow roll. And if I find hard bottom, I'm going to throw a jig. I'm fiending for a jig. That's all I want. I want a wintertime full of jig bites, and I will be as happy as I can be. Jerkbait will come into play too, but only if I'm desperate. TM Basson, do I recommend the 13 Fishing Concept Z versus a Shimano Corrado K? I have not tried the Corrado K yet. I hear good things about it. And for my years of dealing with people's opinions about Shimano, I take that with a grain of salt, because there's a lot of people who, even though they're not sponsored by Shimano, they are Shimano diehard faithfuls, and I don't hold that against them. I just know. You really have to pay attention to who's telling you about a Shimano. But I hear good things about it. But it would be impossible for me to compare them because I've never used one. So, do I still fish for bluegills? Not very often. I do with my kids, and when I see a school of big bluegill, and I've got the stuff in the boat, I might try for them a little bit, and then I fish for them again when they're spawning in the summertime. Let's see. Brian Robinson. I'm loving the slow worked shaky head right now with a 5 to 6 inch worm. That makes sense, man. I need to start throwing that more often. I don't know why I got away from throwing the shaky head. My fishing partner and I used to call that cheating. What rod and reel setups were you using in Louisiana? Moving back to Jacksonville and want to try my hand at inshore. I use my favorite rod, because I'm doing a lot of pinpoint casting, is my short 6'5" heavy frog rod. I just have to remember not to set the hook hard, just kind of tighten up on it. But if I was to pick a rod to actually use all the time, it would be a medium, heavy, moderate action rod, a super long one. 13 actually makes some inshore rods. I've got a few of them, but I tend to not use them because they're spinning rods. I like a bait caster. But something like a 7'3" medium heavy rod would work just fine. Braid, solid braid if the water's muddy, especially in Louisiana. But if it's super clear, throw some fluorocarbon on as a leader. So, good old Bass Geeks on here. What's up, brother? What shirt do I have on, Clay? This is the fishing shirt of the month for this month. Let me see if I can give you guys a good shot of it. So, that's the one I just got in the mail today for the month of November. My sons are designing one for December. I don't know if they're going to get it done in time, so I'm not guaranteeing that will be it. But yeah, fishing shirt of the month. That was a $10 shirt. It's pretty sweet. So, do I ever take the Bonafide SS107 out? How does it track? It tracks great. It is a little less stable than the 127, and the only reason why I don't fish in it very often because it doesn't hold all my crap. I have all my camera equipment that I have to carry with me, so I usually have to have a give and take with that boat. But I love it, man. That thing maneuverability is excellent, and it tracks really, really well. It was designed for mostly for current and river fishing and that kind of stuff, and but it's still, even though it turns well and maneuvers well in the water, in the rapids and in current, it still tracks fairly well. So let's see. Scott Hash, thanks. Nice shirt, man. Appreciate it, man. But yeah, fishingshirtofthemonth.com. That's actually my company. And we're still rolling with it. I don't promote it that much just because I hate pushing stuff off. Chris, I actually grew up fishing for trout in Beaver Creek, just south of Henry's Fork, and Henry's Fork Reservoir and the Snake River. My dad's was a major trout guy. He loved to have his knees in the water. So I grew up tying flies and throwing a fly rod and throwing spinning rods and spinning tackle at trout and just loving it. So yes, I have fished it, just not for bass. But I'm pretty sure David Foyt, who was on here earlier, who lives up in the Panhandle, would love to have me up there fishing with him. So he's one of my sponsors. Um, let's see. What color deep diving crankbait would I use in stained water? Um, in less than 2 feet or less than a foot of visibility, I'm gonna throw a blackened chartreuse. Chartreuse body, black back. Anything more than a foot, I'm gonna throw probably something like I call it a sour apple, but they don't make that color anymore. But like a fire tiger or something that's got some yellow and green and bright colors. Other than that, anything clearer than that, I'm gonna throw natural colors. Um, let's see. When did you start fishing as a kid? Oh man, I think I was 4 or 5 when I caught my first fish. It was a red eye bass in Craig's Creek, just outside of Covington, Virginia, on a vacation, and I caught it on a hellgrammite, and I was scared to death of that fish. I remember I might have been 4, but anyway, I remember my dad taking it off the hook and everything like it was yesterday. Um, but yeah, that's how old I was when I caught my first fish. Man, you guys got me thinking about the past. Um, let's see, Gene, thoughts on jig trailers for cold water fishing, light action. Yeah, I'll talk about that. This time of the year, when you guys are fishing jigs, and I really want you to go out there and throw jigs all winter long, especially if you don't have hard water. But you want to stay away from the trailers that have a lot of action. The best trailers that I love the most are the ones that just have, like, look at a Zoom Super Chunk and look at a Zoom Super Chunk Junior. They don't have anything that causes them to kick very a lot, and that's what I like. I like one that'll just, when it lands on the bottom, it's just going to sit there and going to catch the current or whatever else, and any little shake you do, it does this number. But when it falls, it doesn't have that really big kicking action. So my favorite trailers are out. My favorite trailer being the Rage Craw and that kind of stuff. I'm not going to throw those in the wintertime. I'm going to go straight to those chunk trailers. And the old school guys back in 100 years ago used those pork trailers. Don't worry about it anymore. Just use the plastic ones. But that's my thoughts. And color just depends on your jig. Actually, I'll throw a green pumpkin on a black and blue jig, and vice versa, and it seems to work fairly good. So, Bass Geek says his first was a red eye too. That's awesome, man. Which type of jig is your favorite finesse, flipping, etc.? I don't know. I don't throw finesse jigs. Uh, my favorite jig, to be honest with you, my favorite jig, and I just talked to them yesterday, as a matter of fact, but is a what do you call it? It's like an Arky head, but it's got a different angle hook. Uh, Buckeye, shoot, sorry guys. Greenfish Tackle makes a skipping jig that's exactly the head I like, that has a hook that's just a slightly different angle. It's called the skipping jig, as a matter of fact. My other favorite jig is from Seaward Outdoors, and it's his heavy cover jig, but that's when I'm pitching into heavy cover. So, we've been doing this an hour. Good grief, guys! We're going to take one more question. I'm going to go up and finish watching a movie with my kids, and do the old dad thing like I love to do. Let's see. Norris Outdoor says he fished a tournament this last weekend with one of my neighbors. That's pretty cool. What's the best lake in the world in your opinion? Woohoo! My favorite lake is Lake Wilson in Tennessee. This isn't going to be the final question, but that's my favorite lake. I don't know about best lake in the world. It's hard to say. There's a lot of lakes I would love to fish. The one that's putting out the best right now, because I've had some buddies that went down there fishing it just recently, is Lake Bacharach in Mexico. I mean, my buddy caught, 6 over 10 pounds, something like that, 2 weeks ago. Jeff, I'm really, really jealous if you're watching. Gene, are you planning on doing any new knot videos? I love knots. What I use depending on the line and purposes of the FG knot, Alberto modified uni Palomar Orbis. Hey, I love that idea, Nicholas. Matter of fact, when I was in Louisiana, I ran into Rex, and I never can remember Rex's last name, but he does the action hat thing. He owns that company, and he was down there fishing, and he showed me that a light that he helped design that is perfect for that. It's got a place to mount a GoPro and everything else, and then you can adjust the light intensity and everything else, and he's going to send me the link to be able to buy one of those, but he helped design it. So that's exactly what I'll do, man. Once I get that light, there's a lot of things I can do with my hand sitting in front of the camera. I'll become a hand model. But anyway, but yeah, dude, I really want to redo a lot of my knot time videos and really dig into those details, especially for the beginner videos. So yeah, thanks for the comment. So, hey, Norris Outdoors says bass were busting hairballs. That's pretty good, man. I saw your correction. That's hilarious. Oh, man. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you joining me. You guys are awesome. Even though it's wintertime and it's cold as heck, you guys are still excited about bass fishing. I expect to see a few videos this week. I've got a few done. I've got to pull everything from the Louisiana trip off. I caught a monster redfish that's not going to be on video because we were filming for NRS. You're welcome, David Foyt. But I did catch a bunch of really cool redfish on my video camera when I was out filming for myself. So I hope you guys enjoy that video when it comes out. I got a couple other ones we're working on. So yeah, dude, it's busting. I've got to try to figure out what I'm gonna do this winter to keep you guys interested in watching my ugly butt. So you guys are awesome. Hector Padilla, that's a good question. I'm gonna answer it. How many different knots do I use? 3. That's it. For line to bait, I use a Palomar knot for braided line. I use an improved clinch knot for fluorocarbon and monofilament and copolymer. And what was the other one? Oh, and the FG knot for leaders, for line to leader. So anyway, y'all take it easy. Have a great day. Adios.